Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Hello and good afternoon. Welcome back to our latest episode of Musical Musings. We air this program every Wednesday at 1 p.m. and we broadcast it from Rajamachan University of Technology, Peranakan. I will be bringing this program to you in two parts. During the first part of the program, I'm going to tell you about a band or performer, and I will introduce them to you as well as one of the songs that they sing, and we will discuss the main themes of that song. When I talk about a theme, I mean what the song is about. Then we'll listen to the song, and in the second part of the program, we will go through the words to the song, and we will analyze those. We will focus especially on anything that may be difficult to understand, difficult vocabulary, slang, sayings, anything like that. Then we'll have the news and latest updates from the university as always.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Gary Gray, and I am your host for the Musical Musings program. I'm an American English teacher here at Rajamachan University of Technology, Peranakan. I have been teaching here for about 7 years, and I will frequently incorporate music into my classrooms. So it is only natural that I am bringing you a musical program. So for today's episode, we are going to be talking about the song Top of the World by the Carpenters. While it's one of their better songs, they actually have several songs that are more popular than that, including a couple that are reasonably well known here in Thailand, actually. I forget which one. It's a little bit odd. In different countries, there can be different songs that are popular. In fact, I don't even recall the Carpenters song that is so popular here in Thailand. I've had some of my students sing it at a couple of different events because most of them know it. They may not know it well, so they need the words printed out for them, but they know it. They know how it goes. And it's a song that's actually not that popular in America by the Carpenters. So I don't even remember which song it is, and I don't have it listed among their best songs. The ones that I'm listing as their best songs are the ones from my culture, from American culture, which are the most popular. And so I mention that because Top of the World is probably on the low end of their most popular songs. But for me, it's one of my favorite songs by them, which is why we're going to do that song. So we're going to do Top of the World by the Carpenters. Okay, before we get into that, before we get into the song, how about a little bit about the Carpenters? So this is, I'm not sure I'd really call it a group. It's more just a duet. Now, they may have some background instrumentals, so they may have a full band that plays with them. But basically, they are considered a duet. Duet, the du comes from the prefix like duo, which means two. So a duet is two people. So the Carpenters are two singers, basically. And they are both carpenters. I don't mean carpenters as in the job. I mean that is their last name. They are both carpenters. It is Karen and Richard Carpenter. They are siblings. Siblings means like brothers and sisters. So Karen, of course, is a girl's name, so she's the sister. and Richard is a boy's name, so he is the brother. So this is a sister and a brother. Now, when you talk about siblings, it can be sister or brother, doesn't matter. That's what that word means. Like two sisters would still be siblings, two brothers would still be siblings. This happens to be a sister and a brother. Again, that word is siblings. So Karen and Richard are sister and brother. Richard is the older one. Even though he is the older one, even though he's older, he is actually still alive. And sadly, Karen is not alive anymore. That was kind of her death was kind of tragic, and it happened a long time ago while they were still together performing. So that's pretty much what ended their time together as a duet. She actually died in 1983, so a long time ago. Okay, and as I said, Richard is still alive. So they were born in Connecticut. You've probably never heard of that unless you're very familiar with America. It's a very small state in America. It is very close to New York, and it is very close to Massachusetts. You might have heard of Massachusetts. I've mentioned it a few times on here. I was born in Massachusetts. King Rama IX was born in Massachusetts because his father was going to university there. There's a lot of big universities there. Harvard University, MIT are both in Massachusetts. So Connecticut is between New York and Massachusetts. It's right near there. Okay, so they were born in Connecticut. However, before they really ever started performing and singing together, they actually moved to California. They were teenagers when they moved to California. Karen was kind of a younger teenager. Richard was an older teenager, almost an adult. If I recall correctly, I believe Karen was 13 and Richard was 17, I think. I think there's 4 years apart there. I could have that wrong by a year, but it's close to that. They started performing together in 1965. They performed with, I believe, one other person, so it was kind of a three-person group at that time. So that was shortly after they moved to California. I believe they moved to California in 63, it might have been. I believe Richard was born in 1945. 63, he would have been, 17 or 18, depending on whether or not he had his birthday yet. And I think he was 17. So I think he did not have his birthday yet when they moved to California. So he would have been an adult already in 1965. He would have been about 20. So as you know from some of these groups and bands we talk about, 20, even though it's still quite young, it's rather old for a lot of these groups for them to really just do their very first thing, starting their career. So Richard was a little bit on the older side for starting a singing career. Again, that's obviously very young, 20 years old. But, you know, we've seen a lot of these other bands, a lot of these other singers who will start when they're 15, 16, 17, 18. So he started when he was 20. Now, Karen, again, would have been about 4 years younger, so she would have been so she started pretty young. She would have been about 16 at the time. So she started about 16. Richard was about 20. That was in 1965. And again, they were singing with someone else. So that wasn't the group that became famous. The group that became famous was just the two of them, Karen and Richard, and they called themselves the Carpenters. And again, that was their last name. It's Karen and Richard Carpenter. So eventually, they did this three-person group for a while, for a few years, and then in 1969. I'm not really sure why the other person left. Maybe he didn't want to do it anymore. They weren't very successful, and they had been doing it for 4 years. So, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why they kind of broke up, but they did. The other person went his own way. And in 1969, they became the Carpenters, which is just Karen and Richard. Again, they may have had some other people playing some instruments in the back, depending on the song they were doing. And I often talk about genres, and I complain about it all the time, almost every episode, because a lot of performers have genres that cross over. Like they may mix some jazz with rock, or they may mix in some pop with some of their music, or maybe some folk. A lot of times happens as well, especially with rock. Country rock is almost a genre in its own, and it's a combination of country and rock music. Like we did the Charlie Daniels Band one time. That's country rock. So I don't like talking about genres. I do it all the time because people always ask, "Oh, what genre of music is that?" But I don't like talking about it because most bands aren't just one genre of music. The Carpenters, however, they kind of are. They are what's called soft rock. Some people might call it easy listening. That's not real. I wouldn't really call that a genre crossover. It's kind of the same thing. And I would put them more in the easy listening. If there is a difference there, I would put them probably more in the easy listening because it's not, their music isn't very rock and roll. It's not very rock. In fact, the song we're going to hear today, Top of the World, is probably one of their most upbeat kind of energetic songs. And when you hear it, you'll, it's not really rock. So I would probably call them more like easy listening, if there's really any difference. And so it's really kind of soft music. That's what we're talking about when we talk about easy listening. It's just nice, slow, calm music, quite peaceful. It's nice. It's nice music. I guess if you are into really heavy metal music, maybe you wouldn't like it, but I would bet even people that are into heavy music would probably like to relax to this type of music sometimes, when they're not wanting to rah, 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 and hear all those loud sounds. They might want to listen to this sometimes. So most people would actually like this music. A lot of older people who don't like the modern music, they kind of would like this music as well. Like my parents, they don't mind the Carpenters, even though the Carpenters were modern, their style, being so kind of soft and easy, was nice for the older people that didn't really like rock music. So it gave people like that some modern music to listen to. So the Carpenters were actually very popular. Unfortunately, Karen Carpenter suffered from anorexia. That is an eating disorder. There are two different types of eating disorders, and some people can get them confused. There's another one called bulimia. There are also different types of anorexia, and there's if you get into all of the science of it, it gets confusing. But basically, it's all of these eating disorders. It's usually with women, not always. It can be with men. There's plenty of men that have eating disorders. But it's usually with women, and it's because of how society portrays women. You know, you're supposed to be beautiful and thin and sexy. And so it's that whole thin part of it. And with some people, I say people because, again, some men do suffer from it. But it is mostly women because that's what society demands. That's what society expects of women mostly. So it's really unfortunate that we have this. Society sometimes is not very nice to people. It's very unfortunate that we have that. And so that puts a lot of pressure on women. And some women can actually get so obsessed with it that it becomes actually a psychological problem in their brain where they just can't get out of that. They can't get out of that cycle. Now, what is it they're doing, though? Why can someone die from this? Well, because they're so obsessed with this image of thinness. They basically don't get enough nutrition. Now, I word it like that because depending on the type of eating disorder you have, some people do actually eat enough, but then they'll throw it up to get rid of it. But so that's a little bit. And other people just don't eat enough at all. Either way, you're not getting the nutrients from food. And so what happens is they just get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier, and eventually your body doesn't have the energy it needs for its functions. And so the organs start shutting down, and you can actually die from it. And unfortunately, that's what happened with Karen Carpenter in 1983. She died from this eating disorder. And it's very unfortunate because, it's a disease that does not even really need to exist because it's not really a physical disease. It's more of a psychological disease. So it's really unfortunate that she died from that. But again, she died in 1983 from anorexia. All right, so enough of the sad part of the story. Let's get to the happy part of the story. This is a very happy song, Top of the World. It means pretty much exactly what it sounds like, although that is a saying in English, so I will need to explain that. So I'll get to that in a minute. First, a little bit about the song. So it was written in 1972. It was actually written by Richard. Some groups and some bands get their music written by other people. But this was written by Richard. He did get some help from a gentleman by the name of John Bettis. So it's written by Richard Carpenter and John Bettis. But Richard did at least help to write and compose it. And it actually hit #1 in America. So even though I said it's not one of their top songs, that's because they had a lot of #1 songs. Like I said, these guys were really popular. It did hit #1 in the U.S., though, just for a couple of weeks, but it was there. It was #1 in 1973. So it took it a little while because it came out in 1972, but it actually got to its peak in 1973. And it was on an album called A Song for You. Okay, so before we listen to the song, let's talk about what the song name means, Top of the World. So being on top of the world, if you think about that literally, like what the words mean, that doesn't seem to mean anything, right? I mean, how can you be on top of the world? But like I said, it's a saying. It doesn't mean what the words sound like. What that means is everything is going right for you. Your life is wonderful. Now, when we listen to the song, especially in the chorus, you're going to notice that she's talking about being in love. That now that she's found like this perfect person she's in love with. But you can be on top of the world for other reasons. For example, you just got a new car that you've always wanted. You're on top of the world. You just graduated. You're on top of the world. You bought your first house. You're on top of the world. So being on top of the world just means everything's great and you're really happy. And honestly, that's what the song's about. A lot of times we've had these songs that seem really bad, really sad. Most of them have kind of a good twist to them. They're trying to tell you not to be sad because all these bad things are happening, or to be strong. Or a lot of these songs that seem bad really aren't. They're really intended for more positive messages. We've had a lot of those on our program over the last few months. But this song, no, doesn't even seem bad. It's just a positive song. It's just a nice, uplifting song about being happy. She's on top of the world. So the song is what it sounds like. All right, so let's go ahead and listen to it. Let's get to the song. For our second week in a row, we are having a problem with our video. So for those of you watching on YouTube, you're not seeing my video, but we're going to do it the same way. You will see the link in the upper right so you can click on the video for the song and then come back to us. And for the rest of you listening on radio or streaming, you don't even know that we're supposed to be doing video, so it's all just audio for you. So you should be able to just listen fine. You should be able to listen just fine to the song coming up. All right, so let's get to the song.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Welcome back. Okay, so that was Top of the World by the Carpenters, and that is a song about positivity and success. A lot of it's about success in love, as you see in the chorus, but it's positivity and success. Okay, so most of this is very easy to understand in terms of the message. So what I'm going to focus on is if there are sayings, if there are words that may be difficult to understand. I'm not going to focus too much on trying to explain the song. The song is pretty easy to understand. Sometimes we have trouble with that anyway, depending on the song. This one, pretty easy to understand. Okay, so let's start right away. Such a feeling's coming over me. There is wonder in most everything I see. Not a cloud in the sky, got the sun in my eyes, and I won't be surprised if it's a dream. Okay, so such a feeling's coming over me. When you say a feeling is coming over you, it means if it's coming over you, it's just hitting you now. So it's kind of a new feeling. Maybe you were sad and now you're happy. Maybe you were mad and now you're not mad anymore. Or maybe you weren't mad and now you are mad. So there's this, so when it says the feeling's coming over me, it means she's experiencing a new feeling. I don't mean new as in a feeling she's never had before. I mean new as in her feelings are changing from what she was to what she is. There's a wonder in most everything I see. When you say there's a wonder in everything you see, it means everything around you just seems awesome and fascinating. And that can happen to some people, like when they're in a really good mood. For example, you see trees every day, but you don't really stop and think about how wonderful a tree is. The seed that grows a tree is really tiny. Well, it's not tiny. They're bigger than most normal seeds that you grow plants with, but they're still very small compared to the tree. And they grow into this big giant tree. So trees are pretty amazing. And so when you talk about this wonder in everything I see, you're usually feeling good, you have an open mind, you're really thinking about all of the wonderful things around you, things that you don't normally think about. Not a cloud in the sky, got the sun in my eyes. Okay, when you say there's not a cloud in the sky, clouds are thought of as bad things. Like we have another saying that every cloud has a silver lining. That's another saying we have. So when they're saying not a cloud in the sky, what they mean there is that, again, everything's wonderful. No bad things. No clouds. No bad things. Got the sun in my eyes. So it's really bright. Really bright. We equate light with good things. So again, everything's wonderful. This whole song is about everything being wonderful. It's a very positive song. The only thing I guess that might be a tiny bit bad is the next line, where it says, and I won't be surprised if it's a dream. So everything is going so well that she's not sure it's real, which I guess that's a little bad. It would be nice to really be living in it and know it's real. But it's so good that it seems like it's a dream. Okay, we continue on. Everything I want the world to be is now coming true, especially for me. All right, there's nothing really that I need to explain there, right? Everything I want the world to be, so everything she wants out of the world is now coming true, especially for her. So when she says especially for her, yeah, the world may not be perfect. Like maybe there's wars going on in some other parts of the world. There are people in other parts of the world who are starving, and she probably doesn't want that. So she has to say especially for me, because she says everything I want the world to be. She probably doesn't want the world to have wars and starvation and things like that. So she adds at the end there, especially for me. So everything for her is going great. And the reason, so we continue, and the reason is clear. It's because you are here. You're the nearest thing to heaven that I've seen. Okay, when we say something is near to heaven, heaven in Western culture, you may have a similar concept here in Thailand. I'm not sure in Buddhism what their reference is. I think in Islam they probably also have a heaven and hell idea. In Christianity, which is what most of the West is, we certainly have Buddhists and Muslims and Hindus and lots of other religions in the West, but the West is mostly Christian. And in Christianity, we have this idea of heaven and hell. And heaven is where you go after you die if you believe in that religion and what it preaches. And so it's a perfect place. So when we talk about heaven, when we're talking about things here on earth, we just mean that it's perfect. So you're the nearest thing to heaven. You're the nearest thing to perfect that I've seen. So she's met this perfect person, or someone as close to perfect as they can be. Now we get to the chorus. I'm on top of the world, looking down on creation. Okay, so that sounds like she's literally on top of the world. No, that's not really what she means. She still does mean on top of the world in the way I described it before. So how is she looking down on creation? When you say looking down on creation, creation means the world. She's looking down on everything, the whole world. Again, that just goes along with being in wonder of everything around her. She's just so happy. Everything around her she sees is just beautiful. She just feels so good. That's what that means by looking down on creation. It doesn't mean she's literally looking down on everything. She's not God. She can't look down on everything. She's not overseeing the whole world. She just means that, wow, the whole world is wonderful because she is feeling so good. So I'm on top of the world looking down on creation. And the only explanation I can find, so the only reason for it, that's what explanation is, a reason for something. So the only reason she can find is the love that I've found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world. Okay, so those two lines there, I'm not sure I need to explain too much. That's pretty easy to understand, right? The only thing that might be a little confusing is where it says, is the love that I've found. You find love? To find something means you're searching. It's lost. Where is it? Where did that go? Where did that go? This is how we say it. When a new person comes into your life that you end up loving, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whatever, this is how we say it. We say you found love. I mean, it's not like it was lost. Not like that person was lost. You've just met them. They weren't lost. You maybe didn't even know they existed. Or maybe that you knew they existed, but they were just a friend for most of your life. So yeah, we do use that word a little bit weirdly there when we say you found love, but that's what it means. It just means someone new in your life that you love. And the way we use that phrase, finding love, we usually don't mean it for kind of a family love. like your brother or your sister or your mother or father or grandmother or grandfather. Occasionally I have heard someone use it that way, like maybe if two brothers or sisters were split up when they were young because maybe something happened with their parents and so they had to be adopted out and they got separated when they were adopted out and they find each other 20 years later or something like that, some amazing story. They might say that they've found love in their sibling. That's possible. But usually we use this with like boyfriend or girlfriend, that type of love. Okay, so now we get to the second verse. Something in the wind has learned my name, and it's telling me that things are not the same. In the leaves on the trees and the touch of the breeze, there's a pleasing sense of happiness for me. Okay, so this one's weird. What does it mean? Something in the wind has learned my name. Something in the wind has learned my name? All right, so this is getting back to just being kind of amazed about everything that's around her, and she's relating that with her feelings. So in other words, she feels this breeze, this wind, and it's just so refreshing because she feels so good. And so she just feels like, yeah, things are not the same because, again, she has this new love. So things are not the same. The leaves in the trees and the touch of the breeze. So again, she's just out there, outside. She feels the breeze. Everything, again, is wonderful. It's the same old part of the story. So that's what she means here when she's talking about the wind or the breeze. A breeze, by the way, if you don't know that word, is just a light wind. So we're not talking about it being really windy out. That a lot of times is not good. That can blow you around. That can break things. No, we're just talking about a light wind, a breeze. Okay? We continue on. There is only one wish on my mind. When this day is through, I hope that I will find that tomorrow will be just the same for you and me. All I need will be mine if you are here. Okay? So there's only one wish on my mind. All right, when you say it's on your mind, it means that you're thinking about. So really, she's just saying that she just has one wish. The only reason she has to word it that way is because we're in a song, so it has to have a certain length and to try to rhyme it and things like that. So, but it just means she just has one wish. That's all that means. So there's only one wish on my mind. When this day is through, I hope that I will find that tomorrow will be just the same for you and me. All I need will be mine if you are here. Okay. So, again, this is one of these lines that almost sounds a little bit bad, right? You're saying, there's one wish on my mind, so she's still wishing for something. You know, so maybe it's not perfect. She has a wish for something. But really, it is perfect, because what is her wish? That tomorrow will be just the same. In other words, she doesn't want it to change, because it's perfect. So the only wish she has is that nothing changes. That tomorrow will be just the same for you and me. All I need will be mine if you are here. So yeah, just don't change. That's her only wish. Okay, only 2 verses in this song. Very simple. That's it. It's a fairly short song. Now we get the chorus, and she sings the chorus twice. And that's the end of the song. All right, pretty simple song. There wasn't a lot for me to explain there, but, you know, part of this program is exposing you to new music, even though it's an English program, so I am trying to explain some English things. I do want you to experience some new music. So occasionally we have a song like this where there's not a lot that I need to tell you about. This is one of them. There were a few things, like the very name of the song being On Top of the World. That right there is a saying that we use that I had to explain to you what that means. But a lot of this was pretty easy. So that's the song. All right. So again, that's Top of the World. Some people will say On Top of the World for the name of the song. That's Top of the World by the Carpenters. And the Carpenters do have lots of other good songs. I mentioned in the first part of the program, they have a popular song here in Thailand, which actually isn't even one of their more popular songs in the West. So much so that I forget the name of it. I don't remember which one it is. I don't know. I don't remember. But some of the ones that I know that are very popular in America and in the West are Close to You, We've Only Just Begun, Rainy Days and Mondays, Superstar, and there are several others that are fairly popular, but those are the four that I can think of that are the most popular. I would guess, kind of hard to say. You'd have to, because I didn't look up like the how long they were at the top of the charts or whatever. But just off the top of my head, when you say off the top of your head means you're just thinking about it. You're not actually going to look it up. So you could maybe be wrong. So I might be wrong about this. But I would think that as far as popularity is concerned, We've Only Just Begun and Rainy Days and Mondays are probably the Carpenters' two most popular songs. Close to You is probably a close third, and Top of the World is probably fourth. Now, when I looked up like their best songs to make sure I didn't forget any, I usually do that. I kind of already knew most of these, and I would not have forgotten them. But when I looked them up online, the website that I used showed that Superstar was their number one song, which, I think that's just the opinion of the person that wrote that built that webpage. I don't think that's even close to their most popular song or their best song. But it is very good. I do include it on my list here, Superstar. It's a very good song. So again, they have many good songs. Let me just repeat the four that I mentioned here so you can go listen to them. Close to You, We've Only Just Begun, Rainy Days and Mondays, and Superstar. Go check them out. Really great band. It's kind of sad that they ended in 1983. They did have a pretty good run. They formed in 1969, so they went for 14, 15 years. But they could have gone a lot longer because sometimes, these groups have infighting. Even though they're siblings, that doesn't matter. They can still fight. These two seem to have a pretty good relationship, so they could have stuck together for many more years. So it's a shame that Karen Carpenter passed away, and they ended in 1983. They could have had a lot more great songs. But those are some excellent songs by them that I recommend you go and listen to. All right, so that's it. That is Top of the World by the Carpenters. Thank you for joining us for today's Musical Musings program. Please make sure you stay with us, and also tune back in next week for another great song. And please, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
Musical musings, musical